Hello, hello. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the two-day international seminar on relevance of Babasaheb Dr. Ambedkar in contemporary anthropology. Welcome to all to our department. Now I am seeing my distinguished professors of the department. Welcome all. I welcome all my supporting staff and departmental distinguished professors from B.R. Ambedkar chair. For me, it was a difficult job to sum up or to brief the entire program in a nutshell, but still I'm trying to give you a glimpse of the entire program. It was 1913. A young scholar, B.R. Ambedkar, at the age of 22, arrived in New York City, ready to pursue an MA in economics at Columbia University. He first presented castes in India, their mechanism, genesis, and development in Alexander Goldenwiez's Anthropological Seminar. It was later published in Indian Antiquary. Ambedkar begins his paper with the following remarks. The caste problem is a vast one, both theoretically and practically. Practically, it is an institution that portends tremendous consequences. It is a logical problem, it is a local problem, but one capable of much wider mischief, for as long as caste in India does exist, Hindus will hardly intermarry or have any social intercourse with outsider. And if Hindus migrate to other regions on the earth, maybe Indian caste would become a world problem. Indeed, the caste problem was and still is an urgent global problem in every layer of socio-political discourse in India. In his work, Castes in India, Ambedkar gives a path-breaking account of the origin and evolution of the caste in India. It is relatively unknown scholarly essay served as a theoretical basis for what would later become the most famous work, Annihilation of Caste, which was a moral argument against the caste system. Babasaheb, B.R. Ambedkar, was a path-breaking scholar, an original thinker, nationalist, statesman, economist, sociologist, historian, philosopher, jurist, a prolific writer and orator, and of course, he was an elegant anthropologist. Having said this, I must quote Professor Abhijit Guha, one of the dynamic anthropologists in our recent time, from his writing, Ambedkar's Untouchability in Indian Anthropology, where he wrote, none of Indian or Western anthropologists or other social scientists valued B.R. Ambedkar views on caste. Ambedkar remained an untouchable in this Brahminical and European scholarly discourse on caste in India. However, Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, proudly celebrating and commemorating Babasaheb and his contribution in the field of anthropology at 66th Mahaparinirvan Divas in the backdrop of 100 years of university teaching of anthropology in India and especially in the University of Calcutta since 1921. We, the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Chair welcome all the respected professors, scholars, students, colleagues, critics, and other dignitaries present over here in our department and also virtually has joined at this auspicious occasion from different parts of the country and the world as well. We wish the coming two-day international seminar will create a vibrant academic vibe that may inspire new minds for further research to contribute in the domain of anthropology and allied subject. Friends, your illustrious presence is always giving us a lot of confidence and inspirations as well. Now, after welcoming the guest and the entire fraternity of Anthropology and Allied Disciplines, I would like to again welcome you all. Now I would like to call our dear students to perform inaugural song and open this session. Please. Thank you, students. It was a wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to call Professor B.R. Ambedkar Chair Professor, Professor Shubroto Bakchi, and Head of the Department, Dr. Arnab Das, to the dais. So please, both of you, please come to the dais. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Now, I would like to propose B.R. Ambedkar Chair Professor, Professor Shubroto Shankar Bakchi, to chair the inaugural session. Thank you, Shubhamoy. Now, I would like to, thank you. Now, I would like to ask professors, both the professors, to give floral tribute to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. So please. With the permission of the chair, sir, I would like to invite Dr. Arnab Das to deliver his welcome address. Sir, please.
Pardon everybody, I am with you from this position. Respected chairperson, illustrious speakers, dear staff friends, students and research scholars, other learned guests, delegates and all other enthusiasts participating in the event offline and online. On behalf of the Department of Anthropology, I welcome you all on the occasion Mahaparinirvan Divas of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the seminar, The Relevance of Ambedkar in Contemporary Anthropology. It is being held at the courtesy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Chair Professor in Anthropology, Calcutta University, supported by Dr. Ambedkar Foundation, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. This occasion has another notable connection with our Department of Anthropology, which during pandemic lockdown has marked the 100 years of university teaching of anthropology in South Asia, thereby symbolizing it as a memorable confluence of the first offline event here of Mahaparinirvan Divas of Babasaheb and 100 years of departmental teaching. There are great scholars present among us to focus and interweave Babasaheb and anthropology. Any speaker might embody new themes around the implications of how pragmatist anthropologist Francois' ideas about race via Ukrainian anthropologist Dr. Alexander Goldenweiser influenced Ambedkar's political thought on touchable and untouchable castes as incompatible with racial structures. Other speakers might highlight how the great philosopher John Dewey's pragmatism or cultural naturalism as a critique and ongoing reconstruction of culture within the Darwinian evolutionary framework formed him a fountainhead of practices, or, in his word, theory practices, destined to lead us beyond caste. Culture, as always on the move and seen as an ethical activity undertaken by interdependent organisms in environment, would enchant most of the contemporary anthropological scholars. Jeliot's argument that John Dewey seems to have been had the greatest influence on Ambedkar is corroborated by Ambedkar himself. I am so sorry, I owe all my intellectual life to him. However, we are very hopeful about listening to the great scholars on such radically diverse thinker, writer, founder, activist. Professor David Blundell, your eminent scholarship has honored us. He will deliver the keynote address. We fervently hope that not only as a historical ethnographer, but also as an illustrious social scientist, he would lead us through his rising light to some new lights in anthropology. We are proud of Professor of Anthropology, Dr. Abhijit Guha, our dear Abhijit Da, to work very commendably on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and anthropology, Babasaheb's view of caste, untouchability, critique of Manubad, his thesis, forgotten unfortunately, at least by the Indian anthropologist initially. Dear Professor Guha, at your wise alarm, from this platform, we may ensure you that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar would hopefully be incorporated in anthropology syllabus of your alma mater, the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. We are honored by our long and strong academic support of the senior experts of Ambedkar and social sciences. As such, Professor Devi Chatterjee, a profile writer retired from Jadavpur University, and Professor Shamir Kumar Das in the top frontline positions of governance of numerous academic institutions and bodies, including anthropology at the national scale. The University of Calcutta is the alma mater of the renowned anthropologist Professor Debashish Devnath. From Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University of Social Sciences, Indore, his avid attachment with diverse and number of research projects need to be underscored. This might be one of the fewest occasions in an academic event of our department to get such encouraging responses from the young scholarly faculties from other departments and of different Indian universities and activist fields within a very short duration for invitation. A batch of vibrant academicians and activists would oblige us with their valuable deliberations on Ambedkar's relevance in contemporary anthropology. They are Dr. M.T. Joseph, Dr. Ravikant Kishana, Shubhajit Nashkar, Dr. Murshid Alam, Palikonda Manikanta. Last but not the least, the Calcutta University Authority has provided the best of their support for organizing the programs amid extreme uncertainties of human power. At this phase of pandemic, we are overwhelmed with the support of our students and research scholars irrespective of gender. However, the democratic media voices enforce us to denote the extremely uncertain present swinging between abnormal and new-normal situations. Kindly allow me little more time to say few words on how we belong to the very contemporary normal, abnormal, neo-normal of the then and this now world. After more than 2 years of deadly sacrifice of the millions of humans, staged among the best of science, commerce, medicine, media and politics, do the mere words be enough to offer heartfelt condolences for the intense loss, pain and dolor of the billions and to express optimism for the future? The front stage media focus pandemic ads bringing the world to come closer together, but it massively underplays the closer vision like one quote unquote one step ahead of a racist quote unquote double pandemic, etc., indicative of majority service fueling and aggravating the racial, ethnic and other structural discriminations worldwide. In other words, the representation of the so-called democratic majority as always have minoritized those people at the bottom of graded inequalities and or categorical citizens through conspicuously disproportionate services. How may we be hopeful to get back any better neo-normal world as good as it is for the centuries? How would we then come out of the so-called history repeating itself as if a natural or normal cycle of our irresponsibility to utter rightly and answerability meant to utter the lack of it in what civilization has done for the future earth to sustain humans? The pandemic is fierce, but why not the habits of the wealthiest to bring us to it? Why do they dare violating and destroying the greatest promises of our human history? Promises of knowledge, science, service, reform, revolution, in everything for good of all? Then whose history is it? Destruction is by whom? The majority-centered politics, of course. Hence, a democratic concern and consolidation of the majority would help, or people like Ambedkar, the pioneer by the strategic disentanglement from the majority, that is annihilation of caste, and democratic practices. The minorities have been falling the easy prey to the everyday, here and now subordination, subjugation, forgetting, silencing, decomposing, dividing, along with some reversely nice terms like assimilating, mainstreaming, developing, empowering, etc., by varying levels and levels of officiality. They are the disabled, indigenous, elderly, diseased, incarcerated, poor, homeless, and why not women and children and so on and so forth in our country. Also added the numerous religious groups, other than the Hindus of course, diversely classified tribal groups, numerous marginal oppressed caste groups, regionally varying disadvantaged people comprising a confining system of graded inequalities taken together, all the above, don't they constitute the numerical majority of Indian citizens? Please don't get surprised. Nonetheless, we need to note that minority is always plural. Minorities. In real, minority is a flexible, quantitative as well as qualitative discourse and strategic devices of the so-called majority to rule all persuasively. Our dear students, can't we sense Gramsci subaltern hegemony here? The Italian anthropologist Cosimo Zene, a decade back in 2030, edited a volume of 25 entries named The Political Philosophies of Antonio Gramsci and B.R. Ambedkar. To name more of the contemporary pandemic, pundits behind the union of Ambedkar and anthropology. There are a lot. Nicholas Starks, Bills, Morway, David Moses, C.J. Fuller, Patrick Heidemann, Alpa Shah, Namita Vinay Dharia, Rukmini Sen, Priti Sampat, Pooja Sattogi. They are all anthropologists. And also Peter Barger, Christopher Pinney, Scott A. Stroud, Balmurali Nagarajan, Ashish Nundi, Divakar, and a lot more missed than mentioned, hence pardon me. Let me end up with the Babasaheb's vision of semiosis and aesthetics of his broken man, sick, broken human, the Dalita Bahujan as their emancipation, the everyday rhythm of lived experience, or the title Yang used to mark his writing, Sensoriality and Phenomenology as a source of Dalit power, sensorial Dalit expression that we are, that is the anthropologists and ethnographers, are used to snap out. We know, and let us call all to know, the genius of Dalita Bahujan himself, Babasaheb, Dr. Bhim Rao Ramoji Ambedkar, was much, much ahead of time. There is no failure to deter him. So let us rap and rhyme. You say I am way ahead of time. I say I'm so late. I'll be giving up hell. I won't want to be them. And it happens all the time. Tomorrow could be mine. One day, today, and tomorrow could make yesterday feel fine. Oh, tomorrow would make yesterday feel fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the chair, I would like to thank you for your excellent speech. Now, I would like to call my dear students to facilitate the both of the speakers now. Students, please come here. Come that side. Yeah, go for it. You can come front. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Now, Professor Subhatu Shankar Bakshi. Thank you, sir. Thank you, students. Now, thank you, students. Uh, with the permission of the chair, uh, I would like to introduce, Professor David Blundell, who is with us, joining from California, Los Angeles. Good morning, sir. This is Shubhendu here. Oh, I think it's a technical glitch. David. Good morning, David. Hello. Sir, you are live now. Good morning and welcome to the Department of Anthropology, sir.
I'm looking for that to present window. This one, share. Okay. Can you see that now?
Sir, before your speech, I'd like to introduce you, sir, in front of our guests. Sir, please unmute yourself. Oh, fine. Okay, fine. So, sir, before your speech, I would like to introduce you in front of our delegates, guests, and Department of Anthropology. And David Blundell, Professor David Blundell received his doctorate degree from University of California, Los Angeles, and derived his education from other institutes of learning in USA, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Taiwan. He is currently working as founder and professor, Center of Austronesian Studies, the Northern Institute of Taiwan Studies, University of Central Lancashire, Princeton, UK, and also the founder of co-director of Asia Pacific Spatiotemporal Institute. He is presently offering anthropology courses, humanities, and social science at Extension Program, University of California, Los Angeles, and previously hold several other distinguished and prominent academic positions. Professor Blundell has identified visual anthropology as his primary field of research, where he has taken visual documentation into consideration as the product of local people concerning their own environment. His societies revolves around the dealing issues pertaining to social and economic system in Asia Pacific and Southern Asia in terms of life history, archaeology, ethnology, languages, aesthetic and symbolic system, performing arts, digital and spatial humanities, and geographic information system, mapping and landscapes, and his studies includes from different areas of Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Philippines, and India. Proclaimed for his ethnographic films, he has produced a number of ethnographic films where filming procedures ethically take to account the local aesthetic values to make visual heritage document ineligible to the viewers to a specific culture and that to a world culture. One such ethnographic film includes Life History, who despite of being Dalit received an international popularity and repute. Published by Navaloka Productions and Buddhist Film Foundations, Berkeley, named as A Rising Light, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and the Birth of New Era in India, produced and directed by Professor Blundell, which received United Nations of Vesak 2014 award for best documentary films. Today, in his lecture, he will be focusing on the relevance of Ambedkar and proposing a circular framework explaining how Ambedkar thoughts and views can be incorporated in anthropology syllabi at university level. With no further delay, I will now seek permission of the chair and request Professor David Blundell to initiate his lecture. Thank you, sir, Professor. The floor is yours, sir.
Hello, Jai Beam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sir, you are. Hello, sir. Hello.
Okay. Thank you for your excellent introduction, and I'm going to present now a window here. Can you see the PowerPoint?
We can see. We can see it.
You can see that?
Yes, David.
You can see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Very good. I'm David Blundell of the University of California, Los Angeles. And my presentation is on Dr. Ambekar, his relevance and contribution to anthropology. And why am I here? I want to say thanks to Professor Subrata and his colleagues and staff for organizing this conference, this seminar that we're now attending. My commitment is for teaching the value of Dr. Ambekar as an anthropology course. If you're interested, it could be applied to your Department of Anthropology. Since 50 years ago, I have studied in South Asia, especially in Sri Lanka and India. In 2002, I was a visiting professor at the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. And for more than 20 years, I have included Dr. Ambekar as a key element. I lost my PowerPoint. Oh, here it is. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can see that.
In my anthropology courses, can you see that now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. How did Dr. Ambekar apply his education in anthropology, social sciences, law, and economics to uplift people from the grassroots, to increased awareness and consciousness to their humanity? How did he apply cultural systems, especially Buddhism, as a method to work on engaged social transformation? Dr. Ambekar fits into applied anthropology. Applied anthropology, and currently the influence of Dr. Ambekar has inspired international communities as one of the most far-reaching social movements worldwide. Why is this happening? In anthropology, there is a focus on heritage as a cultural resource utilized by defining a people's ethos and facilitating a consciousness for cross-cultural understanding. I believe it stems from Dr. Ambekar's engagement in social justice, financial economy, political rights, higher education, and Buddhism. These factors have created an increasingly far-reaching movement. My students at UCLA are surprised that they have never heard of Dr. Ambekar, yet he is so important. Dr. Ambekar inspired an application of heritage and self-worth in his native India, and that has transcended his birthplace abroad. Why and how? Dr. Ambekar is good as a model for teaching anthropology. When I say good as a model, it includes cultural origins, religious systems, transformation of society, administration, constitutional law, cultural revitalization, and questions of heritage. In social sciences and humanities, in health applications, economic development, for understanding human belief systems, its literature, and archaeological research. Why is it important today? It's an inspiration, a resource of people, by the people, and for the people. South Asia is a region with people where we begin our story. He was born in a British colonial India military base. His formative years growing up as an untouchable added to his legendary components with stories forming chapters of his life in South Asia. After matriculating from college in Bombay, the state of Baroda gave him a scholarship up to 3 years. On July 29, 1913, Ambekar arrived in New York and was admitted to Columbia University. This young man was a student of Columbia at the university in the lineage of anthropological beginnings in the United States. He had the opportunity to interact with the early developers of the science of anthropology, especially Professor Alexander Goldenweiser. In 1916, he presented one of the best works for the understanding of a primary social system of India based on caste. There he began his studies of ancient traditions, political systems, and economics. When he went to Columbia, he got an MA, he got a PhD in economics. That was his field, particularly the rupee and the British behavior. He was very anti-British in his economic studies, according to Eleanor Zelliot. In 1916, this young student enrolled in the anthropology seminar offered by Professor Alexander Goldenweiser. And on May 9th of that year, he presented his lecture. His thoughts were about caste as illustrated by his reflections on academic reasoning and definitions of the time. Ambekar's motivation for the study of anthropology and the caste came from his own experiences with caste as being an untouchable, born in India in 1891, and his struggle to receive higher education. His seminar paper, Caste in India, Their Mechanisms, Genesis, and Development, was published in Indian Antiquary in May of 1917. He argued that vast populations in India suffered from an endogamous caste system. His hope was for people to achieve a confident self, a life of mutual recognition, and equal participation in collective affairs. His legacy at Columbia University, he was there with the founders of anthropology. He published one of the best works on a social system in India based on caste. He studied ancient traditions. He worked for modernization. He worked to unify India. His other contributions were to increase awareness and social consciousness to the condition of humanity. He supported egalitarianism, and later in his political career, he assumed political power and a government position. Yet he became aware of alternative religious systems and eventually embraced Buddhism. So the features of my course: as a visual anthropologist, I offer cultural documentaries on India and the life of Dr. Ambekar, including my 26-minute film. As was mentioned in my introduction, this film, A Rising Light, received the International Award for the United Nations Day of BESOC in 2014 as Best Documentary. In the film, Eleanor Zelliot, a professor at Carleton College, helped with the story recounting the historical implications of Dr. Ambekar's social and legal revolution in India. It came about as a movement of social transformation for humanitarian rights, with a resurgence of egalitarian beliefs based on Buddhism. So I can show you a few minutes of this film.
In South Asia, land stretches from the Himalayas in the north to the Indian Ocean. It is a region of many peoples, climates, beliefs, and castes. The year is 1927 in India under British rule. One man leads thousands of people for a simple drink of water. The tank, open to all others, even animals, was denied to his people, the untouchables. Beaten for this simple act of defiance, their leader's struggle was just beginning.
Well, he was the leader of the dispossessed in India.
Dr. Ambekar's life was very much dedicated to the untouchable, to the poor, and I think that it's tremendous.
Probably the most highly educated man in Maharashtra, possibly in all of India, and he's an untouchable. And the first college graduate. Just an unbelievable story.
If I was asked to confine myself to one word, I would say he was a very heroic figure, a sort of almost a Herculean figure, strong, determined, with a touch of belligerence.
Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar led over 60 million people in their fight to receive basic human rights.
His funeral in Bombay, the funeral procession, was the biggest one India has ever known.
So this film, A Rising Light, is to say, according to Dr. Ambekar, untouchability shuts all doors of opportunities for betterment in life. It does not offer an untouchable any opportunity to move freely in society. It prevents him from educating himself and following the profession of his choice. After independence in 1947, Dr. Ambekar became India's first Minister of Law. And in October of 1956 at Nagpur, in the center of India, with the multitude joining him, Dr. Ambekar embraced Buddhism. This is at the Diksha Bhumi in Nagpur. The message of Dr. Ambekar has spread beyond its confinement of the Dalit community in India. Currently, the influence of Dr. Ambekar has inspired international communities as one of the most far-reaching social movements worldwide. I am inspired by South Asian people's accomplishment to have motivated by Dr. Ambekar as a profound engagement of social transformation among dispossessed populations, reaching out to everyone, growing out of India to become a trans-regional network. I am inspired by this. So why did this happen? I believe it stems from Dr. Ambekar's engagement with social justice, social economy, political rights, higher education, and Buddhism. These factors have created a movement reaching Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and now Hungary. So I was a visiting professor in Hungary, and this is the landscape there at the School of Dharma Gate Buddhist College. And from there, I went with my student and my wife to and a friend to visit the Ambekar school in Hungary to find out why his teachings have been so far-reaching. So this is the town and the people there. Dr. Ambekar High School, and I can show you what the grounds look like.
You can see writing on the floor.
Ah, yes. Jaya Bean.
It's the first Dr. Ambekar High School in Hungary, the only school of its kind. School buildings. They are international in languages, and they teach primarily the Roma children. They are considered untouchable in Hungary. Their work of art is based on love. We are the world, with the Buddha at the center. Their main hall, and they believe in the transformation of Dr. Ambekar and the Buddha. We shared experiences through films. Here at the school's Lumbini room, I met with Tibor and János, and they were interviewed by my wife, Hui Wang, and I can show you a clip of that interview.
And some Dalit people came to visit us in Hungary, our project, and yeah, and after they invited us in Nagpur, and when I realized how many people believe in Buddhism, in Ambedkar, and in that way, if you change your life, you can be more than Dalit, you can be more than Gypsy, you can be more than, I don't know. And in that time when I saw the power of Dalit people, in that time we decided we would like to have same gathering, like Dalit people in state. And in that time we created our church, Buddhist church. We have a Buddhist church. The name of our church is Jainim Network. And in 2007, we found our school, which is the Toronto school. We need a hero. All nations need a hero, you know. And Dr. Ambedkar is a good example for us, the best example for us, you know, because he was Dalit people. And from this level, he could be the people who wrote Indian Constitution. You know, and he's a really good hero in India. And yeah, we are in the same level like untouchable people in India. And for our people, it's more easy to understand because he is a good example. He was untouchable. He's a Dalit, and he could be minister. And the way from Dalit level to minister level is the education. And for us, this is the most important message for poorest people. If you choose education, you can be more than poorest.
So it doesn't matter that Dr. Ambekar, he himself is an Indian. So your identity is because he woke out from the bottom.
We are
all the way
European.
to
We are European. You know, we are European, of course. Gypsy original are from India, but I cannot feel anything. I cannot feel Indian blood in my body, you know? But of course, when I realized many young people in Dalit movement in they believe they can do themselves anything for their life. Yeah, it's our turn also.
And then you have been working like for János for more than 30 years, and then also for you about for Tibor is over 30 years, and János about 20 years to for this work. and then also for the school already like 8 years, 9 years now. So do you think you can already see the education made a difference to the children or the people here?
Yeah.
The empowerment already you see that.
Of course, there are many youngsters who are still at different levels of education, and many of them already graduated from our school or even higher education. Because we are at high school, we send youngsters to university, and there are some of them succeeded and graduated, and there are even some of them who came back to help our work after having the diploma.
Of course, 32 years before, we created the association, Amrita Association, and yeah, from that time we start to go from gypsy settlement to university. This is our way. And in 2007, we create our own background in this project.
Yeah, our own background means
The driving network. Yeah.
So you said 22 years
We don't
ago
need any more help for the Christian church.
So you said 22 years ago you created what kind of an association?
Amrita.
it's a movement of young gypsies who go to further education.
Oh, okay. So it's a young American.
Ambekar.
America
It's a drinking of immortality.
Immortality.
The Sanskrit.
it's in the Hindu and Buddhist mythology.
So
So this is our gathering, and it was a very successful meeting, and we are touched by the school and their devotion to Dr. Ambekar. And a similar statue is at Columbia University and here at this high school, honoring Dr. Ambekar. So for my future plans in terms of anthropology and his the worth and value of Dr. Ambekar, as we have been filming from 2002 to 2006, recorded 47 hours of broadcast quality film footage on the life of Dr. Ambekar as a project in visual anthropology in locations of India, England, and America. And the result was a 26-minute documentary that you saw 2 or 3 minutes of, and as a preparation for a feature film. But now my intention is to use the recorded interviews that we did from 2002 to 6 as a series of those interviews of those people who knew Dr. Ambekar, worked with him, studied about his life, to produce short films of academic importance and for the public. So this collection should add to the archive of Dr. Ambekar for future generations. In anthropology, our focus is on heritage, a cultural resource utilized for defining a people's ethos and facilitating consciousness for communicating with others. This has been a prime and concern for determining a sense of person, people, and place. So concluding, I would like to have some talking points as I teach Dr. Ambekar as a model for anthropology and why, and how his life has been applied to anthropology. As this seminar is held in a department of anthropology, In our discussion, I would like to ask the audience to contribute their views on how Dr. Ambekar's life could be a model in teaching anthropology.
Hello.
So I want to come back, stop presenting, and back to the conference hall, to the seminar, to have a discussion with the participants.
Hello, sir. It's a wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And you want, sir, an interactive session now. You want some opinion and comments from the audience. Is it so, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. So may I ask audience or our distinguished professors and students, if you want any questions asked to Dr. Bandel, you please go on. Anybody, any question, any query to Dr. Professor Bandel? Anybody else? Any question? Sir, any question, please? Sir, Dr. Arnab Das is asking a few questions to you.
Hello, Professor Blundell.
Yes.
I'm Arnab Das from the University of Calcutta, where it is organized, this seminar. That it is my impression, not a really question, that as I had gone through the connections of Ambedkar to anthropology all over the world, I had an impression that it is more centered on SOAS, London University, or that is around that part of Europe, but not that much in USA. Is there any ground to think so, or it is just incidental?
So teaching Dr. Ambekar in America at a university is my prime concern, but I believe his life and work, his writings, his contribution to uplifting humanity is a very good model for applied anthropology that is a discipline that is quite popularized in America. And his contributions have primarily come from my students who have learned about his life through my courses at the University of California, and also my courses in Taiwan, or my courses in Hungary, or my courses in other places where I have taught. His life, it's called a conspiracy of silence, I believe, due to the Hindu caste system. Mostly higher caste people from India are holding professorships in universities in the West, and they don't want to hear the message of Dr. Ambedkar. And so it's an ongoing struggle. And but eventually, I believe, if in the life of Dr. Ambekar and his inspiration to us, if we walk long enough, eventually we will arrive at our destination. We will be able to proceed in this way, publishing more, having more seminars like this one that you're holding here in Calcutta, and having more students, having more interests, publications, and how Dr. Ambedkar's work can contribute to anthropology. I believe the University of Calcutta could have a very strong, influential, and prominent directive in the world for helping people understand that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, sir, for your answer. And we will try to keep ourselves in touch with you. If there are some immediate occasions to connect other such Ambedkarite anthropologists in US and elsewhere to organize such seminars and interactions and exchange. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I'm always willing to help and especially to offer my courses at the University of Calcutta, again, as I have done before. I offered visual anthropology, and I want to thank Professor Ranjana Ray. She invited me, and I was hosted there in Calcutta, and I had more than 40 students in my class in visual anthropology, and I believe this can be an ongoing cooperation between us.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful lecture and interactive session. I think we have a question. Somebody is asking some questions. Somebody, anybody have any questions to sir? Okay. Hello. Hello. Sir, am I audible? Am I audible, sir? To you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, sir? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Sorry, sir. Thank you very wonderfully actually organized this important seminar, international seminar. And I'm very sorry actually I have little bit joined late, and I'm happy to listen Professor David. Sir, I have a small observation in case just you have shown the Roma communities in case of Hungary, and some actually with the help of documentary evidences. And sir, I have a small observation. There is a lots of Roma community actually immigrated from the Indian state in thousands years back. So, so what kind of horizontal and vertical mobility actually you have seen, particularly this kind of untouchable community or marginalized community in the different actually states or different countries, particularly in case of European countries. So, just I would like to hear your sir points. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, very good for your question. The Roma population, known as gypsies, originated out of India many generations ago, and they traveled in bands and as communities across Central Asia and arriving in Eastern Europe, where they have settled in many parts of the countries, like for the Slovakia and Hungary and Romania and Bulgaria and those places, and they are not treated well. They're not treated as Europeans, and their education is very low for that reason. So they're treated very much as a Dalit in India, in Europe, and yet the constitution of European countries should provide equal opportunity for their citizens. But for some reason, the Roma population has been put down and not treated as ordinary citizens of their country. And so one of the inspirations was the Dr. Ambekar High School I visited, and also the Dharma Gate Buddhist College has it's some staff and faculty of the Roma population there. So also that is changing, and it was mentioned by the interview with Janos, especially he felt a connection with from as a Roma person many generations ago coming from India, that there is a connection, and Dr. Ambekar has inspired him and Tibor for their school and in uplifting people in their school up to the university level. So there is hope. It's just beginning. But the word of Dr. Ambekar and his influence is spreading. That cannot be denied. And it's too bad that there is discrimination in the world among other people. And so through education and the beliefs that Dr. Ambekar has created into an ethos of understanding and education, and also a sense of taste, aesthetics in terms of Romas are very fond of beauty, of music, of painting and art. All of this has contributed to an ethos that Dr. Ambekar also contributed to the cultural unity of a country, especially India. So as they're treated in Europe, Dr. Ambekar's inspiration to them gives them hope.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, sir, I am working in the field of diaspora. So in case of diaspora, we are looking this type of communities who have actually immigrated 100 years long back. So, so in what kind of current actually scenario and what kind of integration and assimilation we generally observe in case of destination countries. Thank you very much, sir.
Jaiveen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for this session. Anybody else? You want to ask some questions? Okay, sir. One of our students from human rights background, he want to ask some questions.
Sir, it's Ritabrata Mukherjee here. Sir, I have a question that while Dr. Ambedkar was fighting for the rights of the untouchables, downtrodden, mostly, or the deprived ones, he mostly never used the word Dalit. He was against using the word term Dalit. So, sir, what do you think why he was against using such like socio-linguistic terminologies like Dalit? He seldom used the word Dalit. Mostly he was found using the word deprived. Even when he was speaking in Marathi, he used to only point out at the word deprived, and he was not using the word Dalit. Most of the times he was not into using the word Dalit. What do you think? What can be the reason for such?
Dalit is a term that came following Dr. Ambedkar's life. He used untouchability and downtrodden and deprived peoples. And this vocabulary as a term was developed in the 1960s. Also in America, there was also the Black Panther movement. Many militant and cultural movements happened for uplifting peoples in various countries in the 1960s. And that is when the term Dalit, or shattered, broken, cast out, was developed as a term. So it was not a term used in India during the time of Dr. Ambekar. And he tried to use terms and vocabulary that people understood as he grew up in British colonial India, where the terms that were used at that time were in the vocabulary of the language. So he used what was the language, the tools of his language vocabulary at his time. And the term Dalit came later.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I think, sir, can you please open the chat box, because we have some questions in chat box. And I'm just rephrasing the questions. Dear Professor David, thank you and Jai Bhim for your presentation. As you have emphasized the importance of documenting symbols in the larger field of visual anthropology with regards to caste and social context of India, how do you see the current academia's apathy in documenting the practices, symbol, etc. of the Savarnas, Dwajas, which necessarily provides us to understand the trajectory of caste? Sir, you got this question in the chat box.
Yes, I see the question.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Please.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, I agree with you. And visual anthropology is a way and a powerful tool. And the current academia's apathy in documenting the practices, symbols, etc. So I think that this could provide an understanding, especially for castes, and I hope that the interviews that I have recorded, 47 hours of interviews, could be made into a series of interviews on the life of Dr. Ambekar. And they will actually show his work in terms of how people have interacted with him. And I think visual anthropology is a valuable and powerful tool in doing so. We must keep it going in terms of
Yeah, of course, sir, of course, sir.
producing films. Films reach a lot of people.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful lecture and very wonderful interactive session as well. I thank you, sir, and I think we don't have any question anymore. Yeah, thank you. So, on behalf of the department and Ambedkar Chair Professor, I'd like to thank for this lecture. Now, I want to ask B.R. Ambedkar Chair Professor Subrata Shankar Bakchi for concluding remarks of this session. Sir, please.
Well, thank you, Shubhendu, for this wonderful comparing. I'm sitting here. I don't think that the stage is quite visible. At least the speakers in the stage is quite visible. That's why, and it gets a kind of informal touch to speak from here. Thank you, Dr. David Blundell, for this wonderful lecture. We have seen some very good films, the snippets of some good films, Rising Light, and of course I was amazed to see the Ambedkar High School in Hungary. I didn't know that. One day I will definitely visit Ambedkar High School in Hungary. Actually, in conclusion, I would like to say that Ambedkar was the architect of social harmony in the truest sense, and we argue that he was a traditional reformer who went to several heights in imbibing the notion of anti-caste movement in India. Dr. Ambedkar's ideal revolved around the notion of providing social justice to the lost, and the least. But very few people say that Ambedkar was an anthropologist extraordinaire whose praxis revolved around the fight against Brahminical hegemony. In comparison to the famous contemporaneous anthropologists such as Senat, Nesfeld, Risley, and Ketkar, his insights on Indian civilization, caste, and a variety of other concerns were particularly thought-provoking. Dr. Ambedkar's schooling at Columbia University, where he was mentored by Alexander Goldenweiser, who was a student of Franz Boas, provided him with a confluence of ideology that defamed the obduracy of social identities and created inequalities. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar followed in the footsteps of Franz Boas in rejecting the assumptions that the position of the so-called untouchables in society was largely determined by their invented racial subservience. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's perspective on casteism in India can be divided into 4 categories in terms of anthropology, I believe. To begin with, he explained that despite the divisive nature of the Hindu community, India has had a deep social solidarity and cohesiveness since ancient times. Second, he pointed out that caste was a fragment of a broader cultural unit. Endogamy was made latently devoted to Indian society, which made this possible. Endogamy was important to Dr. Ambedkar because it prevented surplus women and surplus men from deserting their homes and joining another group that could harm their ancestral community. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's third notion defended that the idea that there was just one caste, the Brahmins. He emphasized that the original population of Bharat was separated into classes prior to the establishment of caste system. Finally, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar argued that Manusmriti's theory of caste could not be used to clarify the propagation of caste in India. To put it another way, the laws of Manu reflected existing behaviors in Indian culture rather than imposing new rules to the observed. Apart from that, Dr. Ambedkar was influenced by the French scholars Gabriel Détard and Walter Bagehot's ideas of endogamy. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar expanded his ideas, this idea, claiming that endogamy became a cultural tradition in India imposed by the Brahmins. Other groups eventually adopted endogamy as a social practice, and all of these practices eventually led these groups to transform into castes. As a result, caste was neither racial, nor pre-racial, nor timeless. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's concept of caste was formed from the societal practice of endogamy. Environmental, socio-cultural, and socio-psychological factors all played a role. The goal of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's presentation of untouchability as a socio-psychological phenomenon was to make the so-called untouchables or the unprivileged parts aware that their socio-economic circumstances were neither set nor unavoidable. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, in his place, demonstrated how untouchability was perpetrated through socio-cultural and socio-psychological violence. These traditions were perpetrated by Brahminical hegemonic practices. Dr. Ambedkar was not simply a well-versed learner of Western theoretical concepts, but a renowned expert, a traditional reformer, and a discourse consultant. He also believed in Indian context. Dr. Ambedkar borrowed the term endosmosis from John Dewey's research papers during his time at Columbia University. Endosmosis was also mentioned in Annihilation of Caste. In his first public appearance as a Dalit representative before the Franchises Southborough Committee in 1918-1919, Dr. Ambedkar also addressed the actual significance of societal endosmosis. The recommendations of the report paralleled those made by Dr. Ambedkar in his writings, such as focus on education and Dalit access to politics, among other things. All these were thought to be important redressal strategies for addressing the rigid inequality produced by untouchability, perpetuated by the upper caste through social engineering. Dr. Ambedkar's ideas for instituting a progressive and equitable Hindu Code Bill can also be commended as an endeavor to consolidate the foundations of modern-day India in post-independence times. Throughout his life, Dr. Ambedkar was unwavering of his rejection to the then popular racial theories of untouchabilities, both in social and political life, as well as in his writings. For example, Ambedkar was asked to present an official report to the Simon Commission in 1928. The commission was established to look into the constitutional requirements of colonial India at the time. Dr. Ambedkar made practical solutions for the oppressed sections of Indian population. Dr. Ambedkar advocated for a universal adult franchisee, merged electorate, and reserved seats for India's poor in 1928. In the same year, Dr. Ambedkar became the member of Bombay's colonial government's depressed classes Aboriginal Tribes Committee, which was established under British Raj. The committee produced a report with proposals on how to integrate Dalits and tribals into the general population for all inclusive development. After 2 years of research in the then colonial presidency and gathering science facts about the socio-economic circumstances, the study was roundly dismissed by the British Raj's colonial authority, but it was essential in the development of anthropology in India. Lastly, I would like to burst the myth that Babasaheb's contribution to anthropology, if any, was limited to social cultural anthropology. I have found many of my colleagues in our discipline have also been affected by this myth and as a result fell victim to a rather myopic understanding of Babasaheb. It is quite evident that Babasaheb's ideas are equally important in all 4 fields of anthropology, provided you have a proper understanding of this great visionary and the discipline of anthropology. I sincerely hope that this seminar will help all of us to recognize the great anthropological acumen of Babasaheb. Thank you. Thank you so much for this for listening me, and I would like to pass the mic to Shubhendu.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful concluding remarks. And now we are already reached the end of the session, the first inaugural session. And from the departmental point of view and from department, I would like to express our sincere thanks to all of you. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Shutapa Chaudhary for his vote of thanks. Yeah, it depends on you, ma'am. No problem, because as the structure is something random, so you can hear.
Thank you, Shubhendu. So I'm now going to propose the vote of thanks. It is a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have made this seminar happening. I take the opportunity to express a hearty vote of thanks to Professor Subrata Shankar Bagchi, Ambedkar Chair Professor in the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, our beloved Head of the Department, Dr. Arnob Dash, distinguished professors of this department, Professor Arupratan Bandopadhyay, Professor Shubho Rai, distinguished other faculty members of this department. I also take this opportunity to thank the most distinguished guest of honor of today's seminar, our keynote speaker, Professor David Blundell. Thank you, sir, for your most wonderful and illuminating keynote speech. I am extremely happy to express vote of thanks to the staff members of this department, my dear students of this department of Anthropology and Human Rights course, who have participated overwhelmingly in making this seminar a huge success. I am thankful to the Ambedkar Foundation, New Delhi, for sponsoring this wonderful seminar. I would also express my thanks to the other distinguished guests who have come to participate in this seminar offline and online. I am positive that this seminar will produce many outstanding and illuminating speech which will enlighten our knowledge of the works of Babasaheb Ambedkar. I wish this seminar a huge success. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we are almost end of the session, and the next session will be start at 12:15 p.m. sharp. And for audience, I'd like to say that a small tea session will be there, and you could go outside and take your tea and snacks, and just come within maximum 10 to 15 minutes, 12:15. Thank you all. Thank you all.